to you. You. Good evening. Good evening to you. You. Good evening. Good evening. Won't you share with a friend or two? Good evening. Good evening. Good evening to you. You. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening to you. You. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening to you. You. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening to you. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Daring Dialogues. I'm your host tonight, Shantae Charles. I hope that you have been having a great and wonderful day. It is Daring Dialogues. It's Monday Motivation, and it's also Women's History Month. And we have been cracking open two new books. And one of those books is called She Raised Her Voice, 50 Black Women Who Sang Their Way into Music History, along with Good Night for Rebel Girls, Women from All Around the World. So this is the Black diaspora that we'll be talking about tonight. And we have three from that book. And then we have three from the music book. So we are going to start with the music book tonight. And tonight's spotlight is on Dee Dee Bridgewater. And this is an excellent illustration of Dee Dee Bridgewater. Dee Dee Bridgewater was born May 27th, 1950. Genre of music, jazz. A bright star in music and on the stage. She says, I was very adamant about not being called a jazz singer, but now I've embraced it. The way I approach music is through jazz, so I'm a jazz singer. Dee Dee Bridgewater, born Denise Garrett, learned about jazz from her father, who was a jazz trumpet player and school teacher. This early influence inspired her to join a jazz band while attending college, which allowed her to travel the world as a young woman in the late 1960s. Soon after graduating, she met her husband, Cecil Bridgewater, who was a jazz trumpeter just like her father. The couple moved to New York City to pursue music. Dee Dee's career as a jazz musician took off when she was hired as the lead singer for the Thad Jones Mel Lewis Jazz Orchestra in the early 70s. Things continued to look up for her as she recorded her first album, Afro Blue, in 1974, and landed a lead role in the famous reimagined Wizard of Oz musical, The Wiz. She also played the beloved vocalist Billie Holiday in the musical Lady Day. Not only is Dee Dee a wonderful singer in her own right, but she loves and respects the amazing jazz singers who came before her. She recorded an album paying tribute to Ella Fitzgerald called Dear Ella, and an album showcasing her admiration for Billie Holiday called Eleanora Fagan. To Billie with Love from Dee Dee was recorded in 2010. She is also very well traveled. Dee Dee moved to Paris, France, and recorded an album in French called J'ai deux amours. Later, she recorded a record based on African music called Red Earth in 2007. Dee Dee loves and is loved by many cultures. Her voice is unforgettable. It is smooth and romantic. It makes you feel like you are sailing freely on the ocean on a perfect summer day. She has won many awards from around the globe for her singing and stage performance. Outside of her music, Dee Dee helps the world as a United Nations Goodwill Ambassador for the Food and Agriculture Organization, just like singer Dionne Warwick. This means she works hard to make sure people all over the world have the food they need to be healthy and strong. Dee Dee has been able to use her popularity as a singer to positively and effectively help those who are less fortunate. Our next singer, also in the genre of jazz, is Betty Carter. Betty Carter. Born May 19th, 1929, and passed away September 26, 1998. She was known for being unique and out of the box. She said, "If you've got a heart at all, I'm going to get it." Jazz singer Betty Carter is known to be one of the most inventive and musically courageous vocalists and jazz composers of her time. Betty got her start in the music business as a teenager in the 1940s by singing with jazz legends Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie. In a time when big bands were the leaders of the jazz sound and vocalists like Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday, and Sarah Vaughan reigned as queens of jazz, Betty knew she had to stand out and define herself as a singer who explored new ways of using her vocals in the genre. Betty's career took off when she was hired to sing for musician Lionel Hampton's orchestra. It has been widely proclaimed that Betty and Lionel didn't get along too well, but they did make great music together. Betty is said to be one of the last big band singers, and as such, she sang her way into the new era of jazz called bebop, which was more experimental and improvised kind of jazz. Betty was so good at scatting and improvising that she was nicknamed Betty Bebop, a name she didn't like very much. Nevertheless, this made her one of the earliest bebop singers in jazz history. Over the years, she crafted a singing style that was clear, smooth, and off kilter, and she started a solo career in 1951, soon after she left Hampton's influential group. Betty moved to New York City and began to regularly sing at the Apollo Theater in Harlem. In 1958, she released her first album, Out There. A couple of years later, the world famous jazz trumpet player Miles Davis connected Betty with another amazing and very popular musician named Ray Charles. Betty and Ray hit it off so well that they recorded an album called Ray Charles and Betty Carter in 1961, which included a hit song called Baby, It's Cold Outside. In 1963, Betty even got a chance to tour Japan with jazz great Sonny Rollins. In addition to her singing, Betty was known to be an amazing jazz composer and arranger. She helped the careers of young jazz musicians by putting them in her band and making them work very hard. Playing with Betty was lovingly called the Betty Carter University, as her music changed from slow to fast, from loud to soft in seconds, and her young players had to be sure to keep up. Betty was such a great teacher that she established a summer school for young jazz musicians called the Jazz Ahead series, which was held at the John F. Kennedy Center for Performing Arts in D.C. In fact, the program still exists to this day. In 1997, a year before she died, Betty was awarded the National Medal of Arts by President Bill Clinton. What an amazing life and legacy she has left the jazz world. And now, we are coming on to one of my absolute favorite singers. I would definitely say a part of my style has been inspired by her, and that is Tracy Chapman. Tracy Chapman is a folk genre singer. Born March 30th in Women's History Month, 1964. Revolutionary singer and songwriter. Tracy has this to say: "My mother sang, my sister could sing. Music was so much in the fabric of my life and upbringing." This is a rendering of Tracy Chapman, artistic. With her silky low-toned voice placed over her carefully crafted guitar melodies, Tracy Chapman has become one of the most important Black women singer-songwriters of the 20th century. When Tracy was 4 years old, her mother brought her a ukulele. Tracy quickly began learning to pluck the strings. By the time she was 8, she had learned to play the guitar and was even writing her own songs. Tracy always held a torch for music while attending high school and college, but she did not begin her impactful music career until after she graduated from school. At 23 years old, Tracy signed a record deal with Elektra Records, and in 1988, she released her self-titled first album. The album went on to sell millions of copies. The first single on the album was called one of my favorite songs, Fast Car, about a young woman who finds herself stuck in a small town with her struggling family, yearning to move to the big city and begin a new life. Popularity came quickly to the talented folk musician after she performed at the 1988 Nelson Mandela 70th birthday tribute, which was aired on television all over the world that spring. Tracy's next single, Talking About a Revolution, showed the world that Tracy was not just a musician, but also an activist who wrote songs about serious issues like poverty and racial injustice. Her first major work as an activist started with her travels on the Amnesty International Human Rights Now tour more than 20 years ago, and to this day, she continues to use her talent as a songwriter to help others raise awareness for equal human rights. But Tracy also writes beautiful love songs. The third single from her first album, a romantic ballad called Baby Can I Hold You, showed that Tracy was a well rounded songwriter who was able to pen songs about different emotions and subjects. This ability made her an international star who had something to say about the world around her and the contents of her heart. Her calm, mellow singing style is thoughtful and touching. She isn't the average pop star who wears shiny costumes or has a huge fleet of backup singers and dancers. Many times she plays alone on stage, leaving nothing between her and her fans but her voice and the work of her steady strumming and picking on her guitar. Between 1989 and 2008, she released 7 albums that combined sold more than 40 million records worldwide, which saw the success of singles like Give Me One Reason and Telling Stories. In 2008, Tracy was asked to compose music for a play called Blood Knot by Athol Fugard. In 2020, Tracy made her first TV appearance in more than 5 years on Late Night with Seth Meyers to sing Talking About a Revolution the night before the presidential election between Joe Biden and 45. Tracy's song continues to give voice to younger generations and remind the world that we don't have to be silent in times of uncertainty and unrest. Again, the book is She Raised Her Voice, 50 Black Women Who Sang Their Way into Music History. And now for our second book, Good Night Stories for Rebel Girls, edited by Lily Worknet, forward by Kashawn Thompson. Tonight, we're going to look at a young woman out of Canada by the name of Angela James. Angela James, a hockey player. She says, "You can do what you want to accomplish by being you. Don't feel that you have to be somebody else." And here is the rendering of her. Once upon a time, there was a girl who was sweet and nice, but vicious on the ice. Her name was Angela. She grew up in a tough neighborhood in Toronto and stayed active by playing street hockey with her sisters. She loved it. She ran around with a hockey stick and slapped the black puck into the net, scoring goal after goal. There weren't any girls or women's ice hockey leagues near her, so her mother signed her up for the boys' league. Angela proved to everyone that she was just as good as the boys and better than most. She was so good, in fact, that she was holding her own on the ice with boys who were 3 years older than her. Sadly, after just 1 year, Angela was kicked off the team. The reason was clear to Angela. The league didn't like that the best player on a boys' team was a girl. Later, Angela joined a girls' league. She had to take a long bus ride to attend her games, but she did not mind. She'd do anything to play. Soon, the Central Ontario Women's Hockey League invited 16-year-old Angela to join a team. With her helmet and skates, she was ready to go. Angela was a powerhouse on the ice, an unstoppable force when she headed for the goal. She played for 20 years, racking up wins and gold medals. Her record-breaking skills landed her in the Hockey Hall of Fame, where she made history as the first Black woman and the first openly gay player to be inducted. Born December 22nd, 1964, from Canada. Her name is Angela James. All right. Our next up, we have another Angela tonight. Angela with two L's, Dorothea Ferguson. She is a medical researcher, born February 15th, 1925, here in the United States. Her quote, "Those who want a career should have the opportunity for one." And good evening to those of you who are coming in. So let's learn a little bit tonight about Angela Dorothea Ferguson. In high school, Angela discovered chemistry. Even though her family was poor, she attended a prestigious university. Her parents saved up enough money for her first year. By working summers and earning scholarships, she was able to pay for the rest. During this time, many Black women found work as housekeepers and secretaries, but Angela wanted to be a scientist and a doctor. Her favorite class was pediatrics, so she decided to work in children's health and opened her own clinic. When Black parents asked questions like, "When should my baby start walking?" Angela realized she didn't have the answers. Up until then, research on child development had focused mainly on white children. With a former professor, Angela began detailed studies of Black infants and their development. Soon, she discovered a problem. Many of the children suffered from a disease called sickle cell anemia. Healthy red blood cells are shaped like donuts. They carry oxygen throughout the body. But diseased cells fold into a C shape that looks like a farm tool called a sickle. These cells can block blood flow. When this happens, children can experience severe pain and even die. Angela studied hundreds of cases. Finally, she identified the signs of sickle cell disease. She urged Black parents to get their children tested for it at birth. She also developed effective treatments, such as drinking soda water, to prevent pain. Angela used her skills to improve the health of all Black families. Angela Dorothea Ferguson. Guess who's going on my page tonight? All right. Our next up is Anne Marie Emma Fidon, born June 24th, 1989 in the United Kingdom. She is a mathematician. This is my last reading for tonight. And then if you want to comment on any of the reading, feel free to join us over on IG for some commentary. One day in East London, a girl named Anne Marie typed out the story Little Red Riding Hood on the computer. She changed the color of the famous red cloak and saved the story as Little Purple Riding Hood. The next day, her creation was still there. That's when she fell in love with technology. Growing up, Anne Marie didn't write or draw much. Instead, her creativity showed up when she built websites on her father's computer. She took apart electronics to figure out how they worked. A clever child, she knew most of the answers in class and quickly grew bored. The school moved her ahead. At 11, she became the youngest girl to pass A-level computing, a British exam that students usually take at the age of 16. In college, Anne Marie was only one of 3 girls studying mathematics and computer science. Once she attended a conference celebrating women in computing. She'd never seen so many female technologists. Worried about the small number of women entering the fields of science, technology, and engineering and mathematics, and the arts, also known as STEAM now instead of STEM, Anne Marie co-founded a group called STEMites, or STEMettes. At STEMettes events, girls experiment and have fun, learning how to code and hack. STEMettes host workshops where teams create their own apps to solve problems, like helping refugees communicate in English or providing students with reminders to get to class on time. Many girls say they don't pursue STEM studies because they don't see women doing sciencey things. Anne Marie hopes to change that. She says, "Our retelling of scientific history is the missing her story." Anne Marie Emma Fidon. Again, this book is Good Night Stories for Rebel Girls. All right. that concludes my reading part on tonight. If you would like to stop in and chat about what we have read, the lady musicians we went over tonight were Tracy Chapman, one of my favorite, Betty Carter, who has teamed up with lots of different well-known jazz musicians, and Dee Dee Bridgewater, also a jazz musician and singer. All right. If you are listening by Anchor, I want to thank you for your time and attention tonight. And I hope that you have enjoyed listening to these women icons in history who are continuing to make history at the present time and those who have made history in the past. Thank you again for your time and attention. Until tomorrow, have a wonderful day. All right, Pastor Ben is going to round us out here and give us his commentary. Good evening.
It came in a little. Good news.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now. Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but your screen is breaking up. It's like freezing a little bit. But I can hear you now.
Okay. I was saying, well, I came in late. I came in with the 3.
Mm-hmm.
And
Uh-oh, you're breaking up again.
well, let me switch. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to switch devices.
Okay, that's fine.
And come back in.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
All right. While Pastor Ben is waiting to do that, I do want to remind you that this Friday we are continuing with our Reading with Women series, Reading with Women series, which is going to go down this Friday again at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This week we have Lady Kenyatta Manley, who is going to be with us discussing 2 of her works. One is a self-reflective journal, and the other one is talking about overcoming obstacles. So you definitely want to be in for that discussion. Again, if you want to see Kenyatta, she will be on our IG platform. YouTube, of course, will be able to hear the conversation, but if you want to see both parts of the conversation going on, we are also on IG at Daring Dialogues. Let's see if we can bring Pastor Ben back in. And let's see if we get better reception this time.
Hello?
I can see and hear you.
Okay. All right. Well, as I was saying, Tracy Chapman,
Uh-oh. Is breaking up again, Pastor Ben? I cannot hear you. Oh, man. Pastor Ben, I cannot hear you. I cannot hear you.
Hello?
I cannot hear you at all. You like completely broke up and I didn't hear anything you said. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
You can, okay.
Let's see if we can get this point out. You were saying about Tracy Chapman.
As I was saying about Tracy, I remember her voice. I don't remember exactly the songs that she sang because I haven't listened to her in a while. But I remember her voice. It was a combination of rough and smooth, almost like an India Arie. But it was a little firmer.
Yeah. I like her song Fast Cars. Let me see if I can play like 60 seconds of it and not get dinged. So we'll do a little Tracy Chapman for us. Let's see if it'll allow me to go right to it.
Yeah. Um,
You hear that? This is Fast Cars.
You get a fast car. I want a ticket to anywhere. Maybe we make a deal.
Can you hear that,
Maybe
Pastor Ben?
together we can get somewhere. Any place is better. Starting from zero, got nothing to lose. Maybe we'll make something. Me, myself, I got nothing to prove.
And that little riff that she has within her song, could you hear that, Pastor Ben? You're breaking up again. I don't know what it is about this platform that does not want to let you connect. I cannot hear you.
yeah, they don't like the things that I. Oh,
Were you able to hear that at all? Her music?
I heard it.
Okay. Yeah, so
Hmm.
I would say a little bit of my singing style comes from Tracy Chapman. And I would probably say the best example of kind of a Tracy Chapman style song that I have is Prodigal. Prodigal is sort of country, a little neo soul, a little folksy mixed together. Because I don't like to be pigeonholed in my music. I like to just,
Right.
if I want to sing jazzy, I sing jazzy. If I want to sing something that's folk, I'm going to sing something that's folk. If I want to do some, like on my latest project, I did a technotronic song, house music song, which was supposed to, I call it my workout song because that's a song I be getting it to. It's probably the most upbeat tempo song that I've done. So I don't like to be pigeonholed into a particular genre. But yeah, that's Fast Car. Fast Car is the song that I grew up listening to. And that little riff that she has, the dun 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 dun.
Right.
A lot of people hijack that riff and use it in their music. So I do know that she does, like, she is really serious about her copyright stuff. So if you try to infringe on her copyright, she will get you. She's had to call a couple of people to the carpet about using her music without her permission. But go ahead.
Now the ends. Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, the ends, especially Angela, the hockey player.
Mm-hmm.
See, black woman outplaying boys in hockey. Men didn't like it.
Nope.
They had a problem with it because you're outplaying the boys. So you got to go.
Mm-hmm.
Where the mentality, okay, the mentality. The woman's that good and outplaying your boys, you would think, oh man, we got to grab her.
Or you would think, oh man, we need to use her to train our male players to be better.
Yeah.
Like we could have utilized her skills rather than kicking her out because her skills exceeded everyone else's. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, that primitive mindset.
Smarter, not harder. Yeah. Kind of making a woman stay in her place mentality. Exactly. Yeah. I run as far as I can from people who try to make me stay in my place. I'm just saying.
Well, listen, I become a brick wall for those type of people.
I'm like, okay, see you later.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I got a prophecy. I got a prophecy a few years ago about me being a leader of women leaders.
Okay.
Right? I said something to one of my sisters about it, and she said, "You finally got it." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" I said, "You knew this and you didn't tell me." She said, "You needed to hear it from somebody else." So I guess
sometimes it be that
not
way.
that I wouldn't have, yeah, not that I wouldn't have accepted it because she's my sister. I would have, but I guess the impact of it coming from somebody else that barely knew me.
Mm-hmm.
See, I remember that impact was greater, and that's what I needed.
Sometimes we
So,
think. Sometimes we think when we hear something from someone who knows us, we think that they're just being
mm-hmm,
kind,
mm-hmm,
or they're just trying to, boost our esteem. When sometimes it's actually, no, this is what they see in you spiritually that needs to come out or needs to be
well,
multiplied. But we don't always
well,
see it that
well,
way.
well, this particular sister, that wouldn't have been the case. Because with our relationship, we love each other like crazy, but we're both right flat-footed and honest with each other, straight up.
Mm-hmm.
So with that particular sister, I wouldn't have to worry about that because I know if she said it, that's what she sees.
Mm-hmm.
See, she's not one to pull punches.
Yeah,
Not at all.
I have one sibling, one sister like that. Only one.
Mm-hmm,
I got one
mm-hmm,
sister, and that's the sister that's exactly like that.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Believe me, you got. Well, I got two. I got two. One is a little bit nicer than the other when the words come out. But yeah, I got two that are like, so out of five, I got two sisters out of five sisters. The other ones, one of them, she's not going to say much.
Mm-hmm.
We got matter of fact, I got a great relationship with both of those two. And then the older one that's not going to really say much, we have a great relationship. But then there are those that attack me. Those I really wouldn't listen to because their thing is to come at me for no reason in many cases. So,
Yeah.
but the other three, they got anything to say to me, I'm listening.
Yeah, sisters with the love ouch relationship. Yeah. Angela Dorothea Ferguson. I had no
Mm-hmm.
idea that it was a black female pediatrician who figured out that black children were suffering from
Mm-hmm.
sickle cell.
From sickle cell, right?
So I'm going to have to add her to my Black History Month page, or rather my Historical African American Images page. I'm going to have to add her there because I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
And it took her wanting to focus solely on treating her own ethnicity where she actually started noticing the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Because she actually had time to concentrate on her own ethnicity. Hint, hint.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Sometimes we all in everybody else's business, but
Uh-huh.
it was her.
Yeah,
It was her being in our business that brought to light that this was happening with just black children.
Yep.
And I know several.
She ain't running around.
Yeah, I know several people now that are living with sickle cell, and that have lived well past, thank God, the age of expectation. One of them is, I think she's approaching her 70s. I think she's approaching 70, and the other one, he's now in his 60s, and the other young lady, she's in her mid 30s now. But all of them have had severe what do you call it, episodes with sickle cell, but they're able to manage the pain, and they, one of them is actually doing like an experimental treatment for her pain, the older woman. So think about it. Think about how many people, children even to this day, could have still been dying, and nobody would have known what it was all about had she not stepped up to say, I'm noticing something here. Let me dig into this some more. Let me do the research some more. So I just think that's amazing.
Yeah, because they weren't going to do it. Hey, we want you focusing on our issues.
Unless
And she said no.
they were going to do it, they would do it if they could figure out how it would benefit them.
Exactly. Exactly.
There's got to be some benefit to them at large if they're going to focus on something that has to do with us. Yeah. Yep.
Gotta be. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Sad, but,
just like with COVID.
And then,
when they saw that COVID was disproportionately affecting us, all of a sudden all the mandates go away. All the safety precautions go away. Meanwhile, China is shutting down 50 million people. They going back into lockdown because they're being hit with Omicron now.
Yes.
Meanwhile, we still over here in the United States taking off our masks, hugging up with people, jumping, shouting in church without masks on, not paying attention to the fact that this is not over.
Oh, you mean it's not over?
No. The Lord didn't tell me anything about 2022 take off your masks.
But see, I know. But see, this is the thing. That's a narrative that they want to push now. Oh, well, it's under control. No, it's not. It's not even close to being over. Every time they say, no, it's not. Every time they say, oh, it's over, it's safe, another one comes out.
Listen.
When are we going to get tired of that cycle?
And from my understanding, CDC is actually backtracking a lot of the stuff they said. Yeah. One of the latest reports is the earlier you got the vaccine, the more at risk you are for getting the other variants. I said, well, I guess they owe all the anti-vaxxers an apology. All the people who were skeptical about getting the first rounds of this experimented drug, this emergency authorization use, is not even really a vaccine, because a vaccine has to be studied 20 to 30 years before it actually becomes a vaccine. But those were the people who were crazy. They were crazy for saying that. Where's their apology? Where is their apology? They're not going to get one.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
They're not. And see, the thing that I keep pointing out to people, when they first started doing the vaccine, they said that they're perfectly safe. And then they had to pull Johnson & Johnson off the shelf. But people somehow, we forget that. And I'm like, I keep reminding the people, you remember that? That in itself is enough.
Well, they said that there was no possible issue with the heart, and now there's a heart warning that it can cause myocarditis in young boys. So yeah, just understand that your government is going to do what it does, and you better look out for your own health. And you better know your own stats and your own body and your own family history, and put that up against what they're telling you, and then do what is best for your personal health. That is always going to be my position. Do what is best for your personal health. There are some people that should not take the vaccine because of the certain health issues they have, that when mixed with that vaccine is going to cause them more problems than not. And the only way you're going to know that is if you know your own medical history, and you've done the work to know what your medical history is and what your underlying conditions are. And you've gone to Harvard has the studies. I read the Harvard medical studies when they came out. That's what I read to determine whether or not I needed to take the vaccine or if I just needed to build up my immune system. That's what I read. I didn't read a meme.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go with a YouTube pastor. I went to the actual medical studies and read those. I read what the experts were saying,
Come
and I'm
on.
still reading what the experts are saying. And the experts are not saying what CDC and the TV news people are saying. They're not saying the same thing.
Pastor Shante, you're going against the narratives. Okay?
The medical
That's not
community,
allowed.
the medical community is not saying what mainstream media is saying. So I'm going to go with the people who are actually in the labs doing the research and putting out
The
the
real
reports.
experts. Yeah, the real experts. Yeah.
So,
But you know what?
yeah.
Facts don't matter anymore to some people.
I mean, we are in an
I'm finding that
anti-truth
across the
era.
board.
Yeah. We're in
Exactly.
we are in an anti-truth era. So when you try to present the truth in whatever field it is, you're going to get pushback. And you
Right.
have
I mean,
to
that's across the board.
Yeah,
Everything.
and you have to expect it. So it's not just with science, it's with anything. It's with just basic history. It's with the history of racism. It's with health plans and whatever. Telling people for 2 years now about vitamin D3. And people are like, well, the news just says vitamin D. I'm like, no, it's vitamin D3. It's not D.
D3, yes.
It's not D2. It's D3.
It's D3.
2 years later, 2 years later, the studies are now coming more out because, again, it's been in the research. Here we are 2 years later. Vitamin D3 boosts your immunity, not vitamin D2, doctors say. I'm like, I've been telling y'all this. Other people have been telling y'all this. I've seen people sharing online about increasing your vitamin D3 because most Black people, because of the melanin in our skin, okay, repels our absorption. That's the issue. It's the absorption issue.
Yes.
So you have to manually take more because you're not absorbing it. I am not a doctor. I just read the doctors. That's all. That's all. I'm not a doctor. I just read the doctors and what they are saying. And I've been doing that since the start of this. So that's what I've been looking at. And when I go into my doctors, they're like, how do you know this? I'm like, because I'm reading the medical studies. That's how I know. And then my doctors have to say, well, you're right. We concede. Keep doing what you're doing. Build your immune system.
That's like one of my son's customers. She's like a mom to him, an Italian lady. She's like a mom to him, and she has health issues. Her doctor diagnosed COVID somewhere during the start that first year in her. He sent her home. He didn't want to send her to the hospital. He told her to go home, told her to quarantine. I told him what to do. I told him, message it to him. Say, give this to her and have her to do this every day. He did. When she went back to the doctor told her, I don't know what you're doing, but whatever it is, never stop. See, what I gave her, you know what we do. Basically what we you and I do. I gave that information to him. She started doing it, and it's actually increasing her health overall.
Right. Yeah. I can't tell you how many people have messaged me and said my whole body is being helped. Or like someone the other day, I told them about vitamin D3, probiotics, and turmeric, and taking those three. If they're not getting their hands on anything else, make sure they're doing those three. They're like, my skin has cleared up. Rashes and sores and things that were on their body has cleared up. I'm like, I know. Because some of it is simply a mineral and vitamin deficiency. That's what it is. You know? So again, as one of my doctors said, they said we don't get any money for prescribing you vitamins and minerals. We get paid when we prescribe pharmaceuticals.
Synthetic drugs.
So if you trust the pharmaceuticals, when they could actually tell you what the actual herbal things that you can take, they don't get paid for that. It's not under the Food and Drug Administration. They do get paid for pharmaceuticals and prescribing those. So they're never going to really prescribe you vitamins and minerals as a cure because there's no money in prescribing you that. It's really simple. It's not rocket science. It really is that simple. So you can go to a naturalist, you can go to a herbalist, you can go to a homeopathist, somebody's licensed, certified, and actually trained in what to suggest to you and go that route. Or you can keep going to your doctor who's going to prescribe you pharmaceuticals. And usually with the pharmaceuticals, there are side effects. And those side effects require you to take more pharmaceuticals to fight those side effects. So then you find yourself with about 20 pounds worth of pharmaceuticals to take every day, rather than 4 to 5 minerals and herbs to take every day. That will actually improve your health and not maintain you at a certain level to where you have to keep going to see the doctor to prescribe you the pharmaceuticals. That's all.
No, what you just said, I found out when I was in high school because my mom had this prescription book, and I started reading it. And I noticed that they will give you one medication, not to treat, not to cure, but to mask.
Yeah, mask. Right? They call it masking or managing.
Whatever the cause was, the problem was. Yeah. So, and then the second effects of the first one, the third was a treated follicle, and on and on and on. They all had side effects. See, and you're absolutely right. So at that point, I was like, I'm not taking pharmaceutical. I got to find something. Listen, I'm going to find something natural, and that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. So,
so
that's what I can't, again, I'm not a doctor. I just read and listen to what the doctors tell me. Cause I ask, I'm like, if you all know this works, why won't you prescribe it? And he was very honest. He said, there's no money in it. That's why. There's no money in prescribing vitamins and minerals to you.
There's no money in it for them or a pharmaceutical company.
Correct. So when he told me that, and he was like, if it works, he was like, if it works for you, then keep doing the vitamins and minerals. There's no point in me prescribing you a pharmaceutical if you're already taking something that is improving your health. But they know it works. They just can't prescribe it to you. That's all.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I had an honest doctor tell me that. I can't say that about everybody's doctor, but I have an honest doctor who tells me the truth. So yeah, I do go for my physical. I do go for, mammogram, that kind of stuff. I do get my blood work done and get my mineral levels checked and things of that nature, right? Internal medicine stuff. But when it comes to what can I put in my body, it's vitamins and minerals. And as I continue to do that, when I do all those other tests, they're like, oh, you have the best blood work I've seen in 20 years. I know. And I'm not a vegan, okay? Because a lot of people think you have to become a vegan in order to be healthy. I'm not a vegan. I still eat some meat products. I don't eat a whole lot, but I do eat some meat products. I don't eat a lot again, and I don't eat them every day, but I still do eat some meat products. So, yeah. But that's a whole other conversation about how people are starving themselves thinking that they're making themselves healthy. Whole other conversation.
Right. But I'm going to backtrack just a little bit to truth being rejected. You know, because we got this whole concept of woke that they want to make illegal, right? So them crazy lighter skinned people, I just asked them. I asked them a question right there on Facebook. What's the opposite of woke? I said, think about it. I said, this is why they stormed the Capitol on the 6th last year, because they wasn't woke. It was zombified. So this is why they did that. You know, they could not make a sound judgment because they wasn't woke. I said they couldn't even realize how the justice system works. When you go before the judge, 61 cases, you present your evidence. Why were they thrown out? There was no evidence. See, that stuff doesn't register with them. Why? Even just a simple, I mean, that's the basic line, the basic ones. Basic. They weren't even there. They didn't even come up to that.
Listen.
Because
some of them were under some of them were under a condition, and we're gonna close after this. Some of them were under a condition called mass hysteria. They began to go in with the masses, and a lot of them got literally caught up in this mass hysteria. Because some of them, when they actually showed them the footage of what was happening and showed them themselves in the midst of what was happening, a lot of them, it was like they had no clue. They had just almost literally like blanked out, which is like zombification in a sense. And they look back and they're like, I don't know why I did it. I don't know why I rushed in. But they were caught up in that mass hysteria. And it really is a thing. Which is why you're not finna catch me in no crowd or nothing at this time. There are other ways. Fight smarter, not harder. There are other ways to fight injustice.
Right.
So don't get caught up in being somewhere because you feel like you got to be on the ground in the midst of it, and then you get swept into some kind of mass hysteria. And I'm talking to Black people too. I will not forget what the Lord told me before even the Kyle Rittenhouse thing went down. He said, stay out them streets. Remember that? He said, stay out them streets because this is not your fight. There are other things I need Black people to be doing right now, but if they claim that they're going to be standing up for Black lives, let them go out there and stand up for Black lives. Don't be a shield. Let them, this is their time to go stand up for Black lives. Stop being a shield and let them go and do the work that they should have been doing for the last 150 years.
Long time ago. Yep.
So more power to you, because this is your time to shine. People of Pallor, as one of my friends say, people of Pallor, this is your time to shine. We have been marching. We have been screaming. We have been declaring. This is your time to shine. I'm going to get out of the way because God told me to get out of the way and let this be your time to shine. So you say you want to stand up for Black lives, go right ahead on and stand up for Black lives. Just understand, you're going to meet some Kyle Rittenhouses who are going to challenge your stand for Black life. So, how far are you willing to go? How far? Or are you only willing to go as far as all of the Black people that you brought out there with you? Are you still willing to stand up when it's just y'all out there declaring versus the Rittenhouses and the Proud Boys? Because that's really what it's going to come down to. That's what it came down to in the Civil War. It wasn't a whole lot of us out there. We had to like defect to a whole other side to go. It was them. And it's the same, and it's the same spirit. It's the very same spirit. So we're going to close there. I know we veered off a little bit as we always do. That's what we do here. The dialogue is just what it is. It's a daring dialogue. This has been another Daring Dialogue, and I have been your host tonight, Shantae Charles. Pastor Ben is being my regular co-host, and I just want to thank you all for your time and attention. Go back and catch the replay and learn about all of the fantastic women we have talked about tonight. Women in music history, as well as women in the diaspora who are doing great things mathematically, scientifically, both past and present. Remember, light is the most daring opposition to darkness. So continue to go out and be what, Pastor Ben?
Light.
Be light. Take care, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Please feel free to share the broadcast with your sphere of influence. Take care and God bless.